Let's talk to Conservative MP for Wokingham, former Cabinet Minister, of course, Sir John Redwood. Good morning, Sir John.
Morning.
What do you think Keir Starmer is up to? And do you think that his bid to get ever closer to Europe reflects what the people of Britain want?
No, I don't think it does. And I think it's a misjudgment. If he wishes to make some wins in red wall seats, he will find that people knew what they were doing when they were voting for Brexit, and what they want is that Brexit wins, to use the freedoms that have been so hard won. They don't want us surrendering more powers back to the EU. And my challenge to Keir is very simple. What are you seeking to gain for the United Kingdom? What is your ask? And if we know what your ask is, the EU will very quickly tell him what the price is. And we've always found in the past that if you have an ask for Britain, the price is higher and unacceptable. And I don't believe it's going to be any different for Sir Keir.
He doesn't seem capable of conceiving a Britain that makes its own decisions. You know, that's the whole point of Brexit, that we've become a sovereign, independent nation capable of making its own decisions on absolutely everything. He still goes cap in hand last week to The Hague with his hopeless migrant crisis plan. Oh, could we do a deal with you, please, so that we'll take some of yours and we'll send some of yours back. This week is in Paris. It is this old globalist viewpoint that we need to be told what to do by the mighty EU. He doesn't seem to understand what Brexit was about, does he?
He doesn't understand democracy, that people vote for MPs and the MPs either do what people want or they get thrown out at the next election and you try a different lot of MPs. And this is obviously rather hard for Sir Keir and Labour to understand. And the great news is that if the EU comes up with a really good law or a really good idea, we can copy it, we can do it here. But when they come up with a bad one, why on earth do we want to impose it on ourselves? And what we've discovered in these long drawn-out, unsatisfactory negotiations with the EU in recent years is they always want to take too much. They always want to impose more financial burdens on us, which we wish to be free of. They always wish to tie us up in legal knots, preventing us having the freedom to make good decisions in the future. We cannot accept that. We voted for something better. So please, British government, get on with using the freedoms more.
Yeah, I think that the Conservatives, the Conservative government, should make much more of this and just say, look, we are the party of Brexit. We will make Brexit work. And this guy, the Labour leader, should, horror of horrors, he get into number 10, he's going to make Brexit not work. So I think that if the Tories have the confidence to be a serious Brexit party, Keir Starmer is right now in the process of handing the government a kind of golden political chalice. They could win the election on this.
I think it would be very helpful, and it's clearly not helpful to the United Kingdom, because what Sir Keir doesn't seem to understand is if you go to Brussels saying we want to be friends with you, they don't immediately turn around and say that's wonderful, have a sweet. They turn around and say, right, what we want from you is the following. And then the outcome, all the old legal tropes to tie us up and make sure that in the future we couldn't do some things that were better for us. And I think that's such a great pity. I wish to be friends with our allies and neighbours, and we are building decent friendships with them, but we don't want to be controlled by them, and we don't believe they've got all the right answers. And surely a British leading politician should believe that Britain has the capability to do things better, to do it in its own way, and above all, to be global, because we know that the EU was always trying to cut us off from the rest of the world by rules and barriers that protected things that the Germans and French did.
Would you accept my contention? I mean, a lot of people say, oh, Brexit's a disaster, we got a terrible deal. Well, OK, you know, no one would contend that everything is perfect right now, but here we are. We voted to get out in 2016. In effect, we've been out of Europe for over a couple of years now. You know, things aren't that bad, are they? We're chugging along. The economy is still growing, unlike Germany, which is in recession. I think our economy is in much better shape than France, Spain, Italy, and a lot of the other EU countries. So this idea, oh, we've got to cosy up to Europe because because we're in such a state because of Brexit, I think it's not true.
Well, I think that the big things we've got, people just ignore. And we are no longer having to pay all the money into their budget for each annual budget that they're now putting forward. And they're spending much more than they were when we were in it because we were some kind of restraint. We're not going to be liable for all those massive sums they're now borrowing at EU level with lots of EU debt building up. We'd have had to taken our share of that and paid the interest and been liable for the debts. We're not. So financially, we have released ourselves from an awful lot of costs, and quite a bit of that money has gone into the health service, as one famous campaign said it could and it should. We're also now free to make our own decisions on laws. I don't think we're using it enough, but that isn't upsetting me as much as if we had to accept all the EU laws again. And there are now hundreds of EU laws that have gone through which we don't think are suitable, which we haven't had to adopt.
A quick last word from you, Sir John. It's last week's story, but it's always interesting to get your take on these matters. Keir Starmer's solution, his brilliant plan to solve the migrant crisis, was incoherent, uncogent on an epic scale, succeeded in infuriating the left, the right and the EU. What is wrong with this guy? I mean, his plan basically was, we'll take in a lot more migrants, but we'll be hopefully we'll be able to send a few back to Europe. I mean, he doesn't get the migrant crisis, does he?
Well, no, he doesn't. And I think he's got to understand that people are not only very frustrated at the time it is taking to stop the small boats, where Labour has opposed practically all of the measures that might help when the government's put them forward, but people are also worried by continuing very high levels of legal migration into low-paid jobs when we want to get more of the UK people back into the workforce with better pay, with higher productivity. And we're undermining that if we go for this let everybody in model. And I think Sir Keir and Labour are basically saying they will clear the backlogs by just allowing people through, and that isn't the answer British people want.
I know it's possibly a forlorn hope, but I'm forming the impression that Sir Keir Starmer and his oddball shadow cabinet, but they're all obsessive Remainers, which is where he gets his information from. Everybody wants to rejoin, don't they? Yes, they do, Keir. Well, that's just his mates. It's not true. Do you think that it's possible that because of the way Keir Starmer is mishandling everything, even being in Paris today is not a good look. He doesn't understand it, but it's not a good look. That just maybe the Tories can beat him at the next election.
I think the Conservatives have got plenty of opportunities, but we also need to improve and make some changes. I mean, we showed in the Uxbridge by-election where we were on the popular side of an issue where Labour was trying to make it very difficult for people with older cars and without enough money to replace them, that they were going to have their lives taxed and damaged. And the public says, no, we don't want that. We agree with the Conservatives. This is a bad idea. Well, we've got to find a series of those things which are out there to show that we will be more in line with the instincts of people than Labour is, because they clearly seem to be following the international EU agenda, which is tax, regulate and control.
Do you know what, for my personal two penneth worth, this is what I think's wrong with the Conservatives. There are too many Conservatives in the cabinet and backbenchers who are somehow not proud to be Conservatives. They worry, they're always trying to embrace Green policies or Labour policies. I think the Tory party needs more people like you who are proud to be a Tory. Would you agree with that?
Well, I'd certainly like more people who support some of my ideas within the party, yes, but I find they're pretty popular with the membership and quite a lot of the electorate because I'm a freedom-loving man. I believe that government should only interfere where it really has to. I think government interferes far too much, and then you can get interventions which makes things worse, and then instead of getting rid of the intervention, government does another intervention to try and fix something that's gone wrong, and that throws something else out. And there's too much of that. This government does compromise too much with the left, particularly on something like energy policy, and the danger is you end up with too little energy that's too dear. Yeah, it's small government, that's what we want. Great to talk to you. Smaller government.
Smaller, all right, smaller. We'll agree on that. Good to talk to you, Sir John. Thank you so much for your time. Sir John Redwood, their Conservative MP for Wokingham, former Tory Cabinet Minister, of course. I'm right, aren't I? That's the problem with the Tory party. They're all terrified to be Tories. You know, go, oh, well, we're really pretty green, you know, as well. We care about human rights and we don't want to be the nasty party. Well, I kind of do want them to be the nasty party, to be honest with you. First rule of politics, never listen to Theresa May.